It was Wednesday, and you know what that meant. AEW was back with another action-packed episode of Dynamite with yet another Darby Allin title defense. Another challenger comes in to take on Darby as well. But more importantly than all that, did MJF sign the contract for the Hair versus Championship match? Well, we'll get into it on here on Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. First things first, I must say that the bit when Dynamite first started this week was fantastic. They had a bit with MJF coming out at the back talking to Renee Paquette, and all of a sudden, all the bald people started coming through. You had Christopher Daniels, you had Sonjay Dutt, Tommaso Ciampa. Oh, it was a priceless. Loved it. And then as he goes to leave, Ricochet comes in, and he was just like, you look good as bald. Not as good as me though. It just, oh my God, it was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Really thought that the start of Dynamite was priceless this week. Sensational. Absolutely sensational. But of course, it wouldn't be AEW without some absolutely brilliant action. And of course, the action kicked off in huge style with was it a 10-man tag? Yes. Orange Cassidy, Christian Copeland, and the Young Bucks versus FTR, the Dogs, and Tommaso Ciampa. This was hilarious as well. They had so many funny bits in this. We had a bit where Orange Cassidy is trying to get Christian to put his hands in his pockets. Christian isn't having it. And then he does, and then he throws Orange Cassidy over the top rope onto the guys on the outside. There's also another bit where the Young Bucks tag him in to do a triple super kick. Instead, he just kicks him in the balls, which I thought was great as well. The one thing I would say about Cope, and I love Cope, but don't try super kick. Honestly, don't do super kicks, my man. It doesn't work for you. It really doesn't. But really solid opening this was to Dynamite. I really loved it. I absolutely loved it. The final sequence was great, and it ended with Copeland hitting Clark Connors with the spear for the Unos dos tres. And it was just a great start to AEW Dynamite. Thoroughly enjoyable, shall we say, beginnings of Dynamite, and obviously sets up for more and what we've got coming along. Speaking of coming along, Will Ospreay and the Death Riders. He was back training with the Death Riders again. He was doing a full neck stand this week ahead of his contest with Ace Austin. It's quite weird that Moxley was comparing him to a bird this week. And telling him that he's carefree. And when Ospreay goes to the ring, he shouldn't be worried about his neck. And instead of worrying about his neck, focusing on giving everything he has without being afraid to take risks. And Ospreay was kind of like, "Hmm, he's taking that on board, which was quite an interesting piece because obviously again it's Ace Austin tonight, or against Ace Austin later on Dynamite, which is going to be an interesting one. Um, That we met Ricochet earlier on Dynamite, telling MJF not to worry about being bald, introduces his team for the Stadium Stampede match at Double or Nothing. Yes, the big one with Chris Jericho and co. And this one, well, joining the demand is going to be, I'm writing this down here, Andrade Idolo and the Dogs. Yes. Dave Finlay, Clark Connors. The Young Bucks are obviously going to be in there with Jungle Boy Jack Perry is going to be there as well. And Jericho's team, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, the Hurt Syndicate, the Bucks, and Kenny Omega, which is interesting. Looking forward to that one. It's going to be crazy as the Stadium Stampede matches usually are on AEW. That is for certain. Sorry if I keep adjusting it. My camera's playing up today, so apologies for that. Right. Mike Bailey was in action this week. against Westbrook. Now, they started this match off with a sequence of moves, which unfortunately, Westbrook, when he went to the top rope to hit a move, he fell off. And it kind of derailed the end. This it was really awkward, and I think that kind of really, put an end to the match, perhaps. Uh, I'm saying put an end to it. It didn't put an end to it, but it just made the match look a bit awkward after he missed and whatnot. So, unfortunately, that was the case. But Mike Bailey, it was never in doubt, really. Mike Bailey was always picking up the victory on this one, and he did with his ultimate weapon finisher. At the end of it, though, Mike Bailey did hype up Kevin Knight's open challenge. And as he does that, Kevin Knight is waiting for his opponent. That opponent appears. Brian Cage returning to AEW after a 14-month layoff. Well, you could say you can see his interview down there on the channel. It's very, very, the camera's just as bad as mine for it on here. Unbelievable to see Brian. I mean, if there was any more jacked that Brian Cage could look, or you don't think he could look any more jacked, take a look at him this week. He's just in incredible, incredible shape. There was a spot during this that I really liked where Kevin Knight went for a hurricane run on the top rope. Brian Cage kind of stops him, lifts him back up for the power bomb, only to be Hurricane Rana'd off the top rope. I really loved that little bit of there, and it was really, it was really good to see Brian Cage just back doing what he does best, wrecking crew on this. And he looked like he hadn't missed a step of action. Sometimes when you're away for so long, it's like um, ring rust or whatever. Ring rust Brian Cage never. He looked too good. He looked awesome. And you know what? Unfortunately, and this is should he have lost this? Because he did lose to the UFO from Kevin Knight. And you have to ask yourself, should a return after 14 months out, should you lose that first match back? I don't know. I have this, I'm kind of in two minds about it. I'm not sure whether Brian Cage should have lost the match after his comeback, but I don't know. It's one of those things that yeah, not sure is the answer to that. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's just great to have Brian Cage back. But after that match, Speedball Mike Bailey got on the mic and he was thinking about championships, and I was thinking he was going to challenge Kevin Knight for that championship, but he didn't. He challenged the winner of Darby Allin and Konosuke Takeshita in the after the main event. So I'm guessing next week on Dynamite we're going to be having the world champion, which we'll get to, versus Speedball Mike Bailey, and that will be fantastic. Well, I'm really thinking about it, and like, I would love to see. I would have loved to have seen Speedball challenge Kevin Knight. I really, really would. But you never know. Um, it is what it is. But the men's Owen brackets have been announced. Yes, they are, and I'm going to read them out to you. We have got Claudio Castagnoli versus Brody King. Jesus. At Double or Nothing on Sunday, next Sunday. Swerve Strickland one-on-one with Bandido, and the winners of those two matches will face each other in the semi-finals, as will the winners of Mark Davis and Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and Samoa Joe versus Will Ospreay, which will be next Sunday at Double or Nothing as well. The interesting thing is the finals of this is at Forbidden Door, which is a bit weird because, of course, we was expecting Will Ospreay, Callum Newman at Forbidden Door. We could still get it, but Ospreay is the favourite to win the Owen. So it's a bit of a weird one. And again, throws up a lot more questions, which is what I like. And I like the fact that we think it's obvious, but it may not be obvious. So, and obviously with Swerve kind of calling out Bandido as well, it has made for an interesting time for sure. There was a lot of promos being cut on this as well, and which was really, really good. But I want to get back to the action. Will Ospreay, Ace Austin. Oh, what a match this was. It nearly was match of the night. It really nearly was. These two are just unbelievable talent. You can watch a Will Ospreay match all day. You can watch an Ace Austin match all day. These two just gave it their all in there. It felt like to be honest, this match felt like a championship was on the line. It really, really did. It felt like there was this match, yeah, it just had that feel. It had that, you just, yeah, it could have just been a world championship match. Now, the interesting thing about this match was the manner in which Will Ospreay won the match. Will Ospreay, you would have thought Hidden Blade, something like that. No, he didn't. He put Ace Austin in an arm breaker to tap him out, which was a really, that in a way is a Death Rider finish. You know, it really, really is. And Ace Austin did tap to the arm breaker, but Will Ospreay picking up the victory. However, they show a big bit of respect at the end, which was very nice. But out comes the Ops. And Joe basically thinks Ospreay had a hard time hearing over the last few weeks. But fate has now made up his mind for him in the opening round of the Owen. And he said, Ospreay, you could have made a choice to join the Ops, but you said you wanted to be a lapdog for John Moxley. Not quite sure that's true either. But anyway, what happens then is the Ops looking like they were going to go to the attack. The Death Riders come out and surround the ring. The Ops back off, and Will Ospreay's music hits. It's it's interesting because with that in mind, does it pay? Is Osprey playing games here? What is happening with Osprey? Is he a Death Rider? Is he going to be? Is he just gonna uh perhaps go that way and then attack him from within, which is a way that we've seen it done in the past? Loads of different explanations, loads of different palpitations here. But anyway, shape and form, it's gonna be a great, great, great program again. But Osprey did pick up the victory. That is, regardless of that, in a great contest with Ace Austin. Now, MJF is now getting a little bit desperate at this point. I'm sure he doesn't want to put his hair on the line. I think that is obvious. So what he does do is basically he was with Konosuke Takeshita, Don Callis, and he was like, I don't want to go bald. Don Callis' face is priceless. Don Callis bald at this point. And he needs Takeshita to win that championship match tonight on Dynamite. So basically, he can challenge Takeshita, no hair on the line, makes sense. In order to do that, he is given the Dynamite Diamond Ring to Don Callis. Yeah, that's how desperate he is to win for Takeshita to win the match. Then it was quite funny because Andrade showed up and lifted off his cap, and he has that long hair that he was waving in MJF's face. That was fantastic. But Takeshita's got to get the job done, folks. We'll see. Right. Women's Owen Hart tournament brackets have also been announced. I will read them off to you right now. Sky Blue 101 with Sari. Mina 1-on-1 with Athena. The winners of those two matches meet in the semi-finals, as do the winners of Persephone and Hazuki, and Willow Nightingale and Alex Windsor, which takes place at Double or Nothing next Sunday. Good. Interesting choices there. Some really ones, I mean, Hazuki and Saray, wasn't expecting any of those two in there. So that's an interesting pairings or matches for the women's Owen. But who's going to win that one? Are they going to do what they did in the first year? Do you remember the first year when Britt Baker was dating Adam Cole and they both won the retrospective tournaments? I wonder if they're going to do the same with Windsor and Osprey. Could happen, right? Windsor and Osprey win it. Windsor and Osprey go to All In, challenge for the championships. One successful, one isn't, maybe. Don't know. We'll see. Anyway, the next part is called reunification, and that is because Mark Briscoe is back with the conglomeration. Yes, he is. And he's back with Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, Roderick Strong. And Kyle O'Reilly looks like he's reigniting his feud with John Moxley, by the way. Interesting, interesting. I'm all here for that. All here for that. That was great last time. I think Moxley made him pass out. I think last time, if memory serves me right. Um, which will be an interesting call. Should they go through that again? Looking forward to seeing that one on AEW, or that one reigniting, shall we say, on AEW in the future. Six women tag team action now. The Triangle of Madness. Fekla, Sky Blue, Julia Hart. The Brawling Birds, Jamie Hayter, Alex Windsor, and Hikaru Shida. Were up there. I thought this was quite interesting because there was a bit in this when Sky Blue, I think, nearly ended up in row six. They were fighting on the outside, and she was like onto the apron, onto the crowd bit of the apron, and she nearly fell over into the crowd, and thankfully Jamie Hayter kind of held her foot in the end so she could regain her balance and then threw her back into the way the ring was, which was nearly a scary. Well, listen, you nearly got people in the front row were certainly getting their money's worth, right? For that one, which I thought was amazing. You know, again, another funny moment on Dynamite. But look, the ending of this, no contest because Fekla hits Jamie Hayter with the belt. Sky Blue had Windsor locked in a guillotine choke, and basically referees rush out. Julia Hart missed one of them. Willow Nightingale and Mina make the save, and Thunder Rosa, sorry, make the save. But it was interesting because Hikaru Shida at that point was nowhere to be seen, which left Alex Windsor questioning what was going on, which I think is fair. Really do think is fair. Anyway, main event time on Dynamite. Darby Allin, Konosuke Takeshita, one-on-one for the AEW World Championship. My God. This was unreal. What we saw in this match, there's parts of this match where Takeshita, they have the stairs. They move the stairs on the outside of the ring. Takeshita has Darby Allin ready to hit the knees. Darby moves out of the way. Takeshita hits his knees on the steps, flows over. There's Scorpion Death drops on stairs. There's everything. There is literally everything. There's a blue thunder bomb off the apron to the outside of the ring by Takeshita. Oh my God, this was just a match that basically defined AEW in a match. It was this one. They had some incredible, incredible moves. A bridging German off the top rope into a cover. Wasn't even like they didn't have to, like he didn't have to break and cover him. He bridged Darby Allin off the top rope, held onto him for the cover. It was unreal. Absolutely unreal. It blew. Oh my God, Takeshita showing why he is one of the best in the world as well. Darby Allin, I feel like he's a cat with nine lives with this because he's nearly lost his championship every single week, and he nearly lost it this week as well. My only, again, I said this a couple of weeks ago. I don't mind it taking four coffin drops to beat Brody King or MJF, whoever it was. I don't think it needed. Again, there was four. I wouldn't say it was four simultaneously, but it was four during the whole match. I don't think it needed four to beat Konosuke Takeshita, although it did. That was how the match ended. But yeah, real shame. No, not real shame, sorry. Really, really good match. Just not sure about it needing that many confidence. But my thing is, and I think so. He should be facing Speedball by Mike Bailey next week as we lead into Double or Nothing. And my thing about him having nine lives, we had this week in wrestling just gone with David, and we're like, I think AEW are making him out to be this fighting champion, but it just gets too much for him. And MJF, perhaps if he signs the contract, that match will end up being too much for Darby Allin. And at the end of this, it happened. They signaled for the contract signing to happen. MJF comes out. There's hesitation, and you know what? Finally, well, he did say that MJF is Darby Allin is holding his world championship. But eventually, what happens? MJF signs the contract. Hair versus Championship next Sunday at Double or Nothing. It is gonna be incredible. But he did then attack Darby Allin, went to do the top rope tombstone, only to be thwarted by Kevin Knight. Wow, what a dynamite. What a title defense. This was incredible. It really, really was absolutely amazing. I love the Will Ospreay Ace Austin match as well. I love the fact that Will Ospreay was using the submission hold as well. It's a great build up with the storyline with the Death Riders. Brian Cage and Mark Briscoe's return added a nice little surprise. Should Brian Cage have lost the championship? I don't personally think so, but there it is. The Westbrook botch was the real only unfortunate part of Dynamite this week because it really didn't have that, oomph, shall we say, after it. But nevertheless, overall, another fantastic Dynamite. As we move to Double or Nothing next weekend, it's going to be a spectacular show, that's for sure. Speaking of shows, in the playlists, interview Billy Starks ahead of her match tomorrow at Super Card of Honor, the Survival of the Fittest match that she is in. Go check that out. Go check out Ring of Honor, Super Card of Honor tomorrow as well. We'll be back a bit later on with the youngest in charge, Leon Slater, as he looks to make history tonight and become the longest reigning X Division champion. Follow us, HTT Bucko, everywhere. But until next time, everybody, stay elite and goodbye.